Hi everybody. So this video is about the LGBTQ plus movement, and that has not been focused on the right to vote as most other prior movements were based on, but this was a social movement based instead on the right to marriage. And that's for two reasons. One, the right to vote has not been given or denied based on sexual preference or sexual expression. The issue here was the right to marriage. So why marriage? You know, a lot of married couples divorce, so why would you want that? Well, marriage itself comes with a plethora of other legal rights and privileges. In South Carolina, once you get married, you have gained immediately 1,200 rights that are associated simply with going through the action of becoming married. A lot of them are very significant, like rights to your children in case of death or divorce, rights to have health decisions made by someone, and very specifically and very importantly, tax rights, which is what led us to one of the landmark Supreme Court cases for same-sex marriage. The top left picture, you've got a couple, Thea Spire, she's right, she's wearing the kind of purpley, it's a pretty color shirt, lavender, lilac blouse, and then the woman squatting in pink is Edie Windsor, and the case, U.S. v. Windsor, was a landmark Supreme Court case in 2012 that provided for certain federal recognition of same-sex marriage partners based on tax issues. Okay, so Spire and Windsor had been roommates back in the 40s, back when that was what was required. In the 60s, they went to Canada and they got married. And they both moved, they went back to New York, and both had quite impressive careers. Spire was a very successful psychologist, and Windsor worked for a little company, a little startup in the 70s called IBM. Okay, so they were doing pretty well. And then, upon Spire's death, a few years before the Supreme Court case, Windsor was shocked to discover that the tax situation was a little different than she expected. Now, when a spouse dies, so if I were to die, then all of my wealth, well, I'm a teacher, so my wealth would be transferred to him, okay? And so that wouldn't be any kind of challenge, there wouldn't be any kind of tax issue. But because they were very wealthy, and because they were in the eyes of the law unmarried, they were considered strangers, okay? So if I have a lot of money, this is only for people who have a lot of money, okay? If you're a regular person, this is not going to impact you at all. But if I have a lot of money and I pass away, then my husband is going to pay little to no tax on that transfer, okay? Since Spire and Windsor were not legally married in the state of, in the United States, then the federal government said, hey, that's a stranger penalty. That's a stranger transfer, and so we're going to tax that at a 25% rate. And so Windsor took that case to court, pointing out that the due clause, that the due clause portion of the Fifth Amendment protected the rights of all citizens equally, and so she wanted that to be upheld in court, and that was a success. That was a successful case for Windsor, and thus for anybody who was in a same-sex relationship in the United States. It meant that basically the federal taxes could not be higher for people who were in same-sex relationships than for people who were not, okay, as long as a few conditions were met. And so she went to meet President Obama in the White House. I've got that picture in there because I want to show off how she is pocket-sized. Oh my goodness, she's tiny. But that led then to a Supreme Court case just 3 years down the road from there, 2015, Obergefell v. Hodges. And Obergefell case, this is Jim Obergefell, the plaintiff in the bottom left corner, was based on his right to have his name placed on his husband's death certificate. So Obergefell's spouse had died, and he was unable to have his legal stance, even though he was legally married in his state of Ohio at the time. because of federal restrictions there. And at this point, a number of states, almost 2/3, had legalized same-sex marriage within their borders, either via a vote of the state legislature, a vote of the people in the state, or by a court order within a circuit court district. And so really the tide was turning 2014, 2015. And the Supreme Court also had the same opinion as the public, stating that every American is allowed equal access under the laws, equal opportunity for each American. Now, the Obergefell decision did not make some requirements that many think it does. It does not compel clergy to perform marriage ceremonies for a couple same-sex or opposite sex, no matter what. A clergy member does not have to perform that, so there's not a requirement there. What it means is that a wedding license, or a marriage license, excuse me, must be issued if a couple shows up. Only 2 adults, no more than that, and everybody has to be 18 or older, with some exceptions for child marriage in states that do permit that. And so the next movement, of course, is a focus on transgender individuals, and a lot of that has been focused on service in the military. Right now that's tied up in the court system, so once that has been kind of worked out, then we'll know a little bit more about the next focus.